Please hold while I try to connect you.
Hi, this is Doug.
Hey, Doug. This is Michael Halper calling from SalesScripter. Have I caught you in the middle of anything?
Not really, but what's this regarding?
Well, the reason why I'm reaching out is I work with inside sales directors, and I help them to get their inside sales reps on the right message, saying the right things, asking the right questions. So I don't know if that's something that you're concerned with at all about or not, but how confident are you that your reps are on the phone saying the right stuff?
I'm pretty confident. I sit right next to most of them, so I can usually hear what their conversations are going and everything like that.
Regarding, are they trying to get into new accounts? Are they working existing accounts?
New accounts.
So how important is it for you to improve their rate to get into new accounts?
I think we already have a lot of the tools in place that help increase their odds and probabilities of getting connects.
So regarding performance, you're happy with everything? You wouldn't change anything, add anything?
Nothing specific comes to mind.
All right. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing pretty good over there, so I'll let you get back to it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. You bet. Bye.
All right, so definitely not a great call, but there's one thing in particular that I think is good for us to reflect on. And before I point out what that one thing is, I also want to just mention real quick, if you're listening to this call example and maybe some of the other ones that I'm posting, I do want to point out that I'm the one doing these calls, and I'm extremely, let's say, rusty. I'm doing cold calling, demos and recording these, and I haven't done cold calling in a couple years, to be honest with you. Either I have people to do most of our cold calling, or a lot of what we do as a company is actually more warm calling. So, but this is really good. I'm really enjoying this because I'm actually forgetting to do stuff that's part of our core methodology, and I'm able to look back at these calls and point out those key things and really kind of learn a little bit and get a little rust off of my system and point these things out. And I'm learning again by going through this, and hopefully as you see these demonstrated calls or call recordings, you can see that what I point out, hopefully I will fix on future calls. And that's a good demonstration for you to say that when you make calls, if you either reflect like we are on these calls, and these same problems and issues that I'm pointing out are going to come up for you, and if you make the same modifications that I'm recommending that I do, you can also improve your results. And these are good examples of looking back and seeing the small things, especially for situations that come up again and again. If you can make a modification to where you're better prepared or you handle a situation better next time because you know it's going to come up again, then that's how you can improve your results, and especially you improve in an area that's extremely challenging like cold calling. That being the case, let's talk about that one thing that I could have done better here. So let's talk about a couple of things that went well. I established the call fairly well. I got through actually the company switchboard and punched in the person's last name and was able to get to his direct line, and he answered his phone. He was quick to sort of screen me by saying, "What is this call regarding?" At that point, if I said something that made me sound like a salesperson, he might have gotten rid of me real quickly. He didn't, and what I responded with was my value proposition. I did a soft takeaway, and then I just went real quick into asking him a couple questions, which he was pretty good. He was pretty patient in answering and listening to. You could debate whether or not my questions were good or not. You're going to have your own set of questions. Whether or not my questions are good, if you have good questions for your product, you could insert them right where I did mine, and maybe you would have done better in the area where I was asking questions. We did run into another objection, and I want to point out that this is the key thing I want to talk about. we ended up at a place where he said, I think we have all the tools that we need for improving clicks and getting into new accounts. So that objection is kind of in the direction of we're already using something today. So if these objections over here, so we're not making any changes, or we're not doing anything right now, or we already use someone for that. So those are some of the those are some similar objections to what he gave me. Now, what I want to point out is I want to show you a slide, a couple slides, and the thing is that so in our methodology is over here on the right, and we're focusing more on benefits and problems and asking good questions, and our goal is really to start the conversation. What we're trying to stay away from is the product pushing approach and pitch, which is always trying to validate, does the customer need what you're selling, and that's your only reason for talking to them and meeting with them. When he says, I'm not interested in meeting with you, I'm not interested in meeting with you. When he says we already have all the tools we need right now, that is an objection that is more aligned with not buying from you today. He doesn't need to talk with me, or continue the conversation because he has everything he needs. But if my goal is to start conversations, the reality is that that's not a valid reason for us not to talk. Let me show you another slide to illustrate this concept also. This is a slide I show a lot in our sales training, and it has these 3 steps. Initial contact, so this is the cold call. This would be an appointment. Step 2 is an appointment that we might try to set. These could happen at the same time, where you end up on the phone talking to someone for 15-20 minutes at the same time. But most likely we want to schedule the call on the schedule a meeting, set a meeting, an appointment on the cold call, and that's step 2. And step 3 might be a demonstration, presentation, event, whatnot. So our goal, it's easy to lose sight. Now, when he says we have all the tools we need, and when I accept that, that's actually me losing sight of what my real goal is. My real goal is to set the appointment. My real goal is not, my ultimate goal is to sell the product, but my goal of the cold call is not to sell the product. So, and that's why this is a really good call example to look at. When I accepted that objection, I forgot to keep my eyes on the goal of setting the appointment. So when he says we already have all the tools we need right now, and I say, okay, have a great day, then I'm basically saying he doesn't need to buy from me right now, so I'll let him go. But as I said, that's not the goal. So if we stay focused that our goal is to set the appointment, what we can realize that objection doesn't make sense. It's like you saying, do you want to go to the park? And someone saying, I'm not hungry. Right? Would you say, okay, then you don't want to go to the park? You would say, well, we're not going to eat at the park. We're going to go play and enjoy nature. Right? You would not accept the objection of someone saying that they're not hungry. And it's the same thing basically happening here. Basically, I said I was trying to get him to go to the park, and he said he wasn't hungry, and I said, okay, well, have a great day. So what could we have said if we would have really stayed aware of that, which I did not do, and that was my big mistake. Or one mistake, one thing that I could have corrected. And so what I could have said is, when he says, I think we have all the tools we need to improve clicks and conversions, then I could have responded with something like, oh, I'm sure you're doing it. It does sound like you guys are doing pretty good over there. I tell you what, I'm actually not calling up to try to sell you, one of our tools, or talk to you about all the great things we do and sign you up for anything. I honestly don't even really know if you guys fit what we do. Greg, I'm just really trying to reach out and start the dialogue with you and start the conversation. So we're a company that you're an inside sales director. We and me personally, our company works with inside sales directors and helps them to improve results. I would assume that you might have areas where your reps could be performing better, or your turnover could be better, your sales could be better. I mean, you can't tell me that you have more sales than you want or that you need. So I'm not really going to, instead of us, I'm just calling you really out of the blue. I just want to start a conversation with you, and we have helped other businesses and inside sales directors like you. So I'm just looking to start the conversation. I'd like to learn a little bit more about the tools you are using, maybe share a little information about us. I'm thinking like a 15-20 minute phone call. We don't have to do it today. Maybe you're busy today. Maybe you're slammed this week. I'm not going anywhere. My company's not going anywhere. Can I put 10, 15 minutes on the calendar with you just to have a little bit longer call? Maybe at the end of that, you can say, we can agree, yeah, you guys are doing great, and there's no way that we can help you. Or we might identify that it might make sense to talk in a little more detail at another day. We can, and like I said, I know you're busy. I've been in your role. Maybe we can put that out a couple weeks from now, a month from now. Like I said, I'm not going anywhere. What do you say, Greg? And so that's okay. And I'm just going to pause on the demo. That it's a bit wordy, and maybe I could trim that up a bit, but that's a totally different direction and something that you can respond with when someone says, we don't have budget right now, we already use somebody, we can't make any changes, we're already using tools, we have all the tools we need. Those are objections for them not to purchase from you. Those objections don't make sense for having a conversation. It's the equivalent of them saying, I'm not hungry, when you're trying to see if they want to go to the park. And so, and that was my mistake, is I just kind of accepted it. You could also say that I could have maybe shared some pain points or and whatnot, and close for the meeting in another way. But I just think that's a really good example of my mistake of basically losing sight of that your goal is always trying to set the appointment, and it's not trying to close the sale. So when they give you objections that are more aligned with them buying from you, those aren't valid, and you can go back with a response, something in the direction of, I'm not looking to sell anything today, I don't know if you even really need what we provide. And you could either ask a question or two if you haven't had. Sometimes they give you that objection of I'm not interested before you have even asked a question or two. So when that happens, you could say, hey, listen, in fact, let me show you the response for that. Actually, let me get back to SalesScripter. So if I get back to the objection over here, so if they say I'm not interested, you could redirect to your questions here. So if that comes up real early on a call, you might say, hey, I'm not trying to sign you up for anything. Can I ask you real quick though? And you ask one of your questions. See, we couldn't do that in this particular example because I already asked 3 or 4 questions, right? And he gave me pretty neutral responses to negative responses. Actually, not even neutral, pretty negative responses. Negative meaning I wasn't uncovering any pain. So I couldn't really go back and ask additional questions. If I show you other responses in this tool, when he says we already use someone for that, there are some direct responses. I could have said, oh, you are. Hey, Greg, do you mind if I ask what you guys are using to improve clicks? And he might say, well, we're using this auto dialer, or we're using this whatever system. And then I've gotten away from him basically objecting, and I can ask questions about those tools. How long have you been using that? How is that working? Hey, well, when they're able to get on the phone, and I can keep the call going. So that's this response, but the response I gave you earlier was sort of redirecting back to the meeting. Anyways, I hope that gives you some ideas. I think the key takeaway from this particular call is don't lose sight of the real goal of the cold call, which is to set the appointment. I mean, if they want to buy from you, that's great. But you really don't, in a cold call that's 2 to 5 minutes, you really don't have enough time to sell the product. You don't have enough time to truly overcome someone's objections. You can just try to get around them, and so you can redirect back to asking some questions. I could redirect to pain points where I could say, hey, yeah, well, it sounds like you guys are doing pretty good. But I know that a lot of inside sales directors have challenges with this and this and this. Are you saying you don't have any of those challenges? I could redirect back to the appointment. So again, I hope that gives you some ideas. Listen out for the next call example, and as you can see from these, hopefully you can learn from these little tweaks and learning moments and improve your results, just like I'm trying to improve my results and get back to my fighting shape that I used to be when I made dozens of calls every day, which is definitely not where I'm at today. So thanks for listening, and see you on the next call.